Passionate, loyal.
A focused, unrelenting tornado.
A tenacious and very committed.
Hard ass.
He was very persistent.
Genuine compassion and passion.
He's a genius. He's a giant. A highly skilled professional.
Brian Hatch appreciated firefighters because he started as a firefighter.
Went to work in Ontario, California as a firefighter in 1961. Worked there until 1971.
Actually, I first met Brian when he walked in my office for a job interview. Brian had recently lost his job at Ontario. Where he was a captain in the fire department because he wouldn't cut his hair, which was down to his waist at the time.
I told him right up front in the interview that I had no lobbying experience, but that what I didn't know about the profession I could make up for in my fervent enthusiasm for protecting the rights of firefighters.
Having been a firefighter and then having the opportunity to defend and protect the livelihood of firefighters he was a perfect fit.
Anything and everything that came close to having some impact on firefighters, and some things that you wouldn't have guessed did. If they did, if Brian thought they did, Brian was there.
Brian Hatch was the firefighters. The firefighters were Brian Hatch.
Brian knows that retirement system backwards and forwards. I think he knows more than half of the legislators did and all the staff.
Brian is the reason that this book is so thick. And this book is about all the retirement law and disability issues.
And as I would have meetings with the representatives from CalPERS or 37 Act County, well, your dad wrote that section. Oh, and he wrote that section. I don't know, ask your dad what that means, because, well, he wrote that section.
Because of that, he ought to be on every retired firefighter's Christmas card list, because we have the best retirement system anywhere.
Brian had me carry the binding arbitration for firefighter bill. As I recall, it took us a couple tries to get it down to the governor, and then Gray Davis signed it.
The pinnacle is the cancer presumptive law.
It was the first recognition that cancer was an occupational hazard.
It was a very difficult fight. We found that firefighters were dying of cancer much more often than the public at large, and yet we couldn't lay out a nice, clean package of evidence.
People laughed at us. They didn't think it would work. But that same tenacity, that same unwillingness to take no for an answer is why the firefighters in California have enjoyed cancer presumption for 34 years.
Brian, over the years, has been one of those out-of-the-box strategic thinkers.
Somewhere along the way, something would get amended, something would get changed, something would be in there that worked out the way the firefighters needed it, and you knew that was Brian.
He does not come across as arrogant. He doesn't talk down to people. And I think that had a lot to do with why he was so successful.
If you were on the different side of him, he wouldn't let you go until you caved in to whatever the hell he wanted.
Moving the CPF's agenda, he was an amazing tactician and strategist, and so the enemies did beware.
People always worry, even today, of what we're doing legislatively because they expect some sort of Brian Hatch move.
At some point, almost everybody in the Capitol at the time had been hatched.
And that meant that you got surprised by a last-minute proposal by Brian Hatch on behalf of the firefighters.
I knew that Dan, as long as I didn't get too far off the reservation, he'd be right there to back me. And that was an important element.
He didn't have to resort to trickery. Heads up, he could take the best lobbyist in Sacramento on and win.
Christy is so much like her father.
I was on a spring break as a teacher, and I followed him around for a week in utter silence, in utter amazement. I don't think I finished my first day back teaching on a Monday where I called him and said, I'm in.
She just jumped right in and put both feet to the fire and learned a lot from her dad, and they have a great relationship.
We're so blessed to have that family part of our family because it just makes what we do so much better.
I think no single individual has had more impact on our profession than Brian Hatch.
Over the years, the improvements have been made that have substantially helped all of our members.
When a firefighter's injured, when they get an occupational illness, when they retire, how much they retire on, what kind of work rules they have, what kind of safety equipment they use. You can clearly say that Brian Hatch had something to do with that.
He knew the people, he knew the program, and most of all, he knew the process for getting legislation done.
People say that, you're carrying on what your dad did. I say, like, he put me on his shoulders and then said, go forth.
I mean, I just don't know how you get a better legacy than what Brian should have, because he never did anything wrong to anybody. He only helped people.
Well, we all do it for the firefighters, and we'll continue to grow and prosper. For me, it's been a wonderful ride.